This podcast contains an English accent that most of our Irish listeners will find offensive. Also, there may be some colourful language that you're going to find less offensive. Now, over to Ryan and Leon. Enjoy the podcast.
My heart is like a singing bird, whose nest is in a watered shoot. My heart is like an apple tree, whose boughs are bent with thick-set fruit. My heart is like a rainbow shell that paddles in a halcyon sea. My heart is gladder than all these, because my love is come to me. Raise me a dais of silk and down, hang it with vair and purple dyes, carve it in doves and pomegranates and peacocks with 100 eyes, work it in gold and silver grapes, in leaves and silver fleur-de-lis, because the birthday of my life is come. My love is come to me.
The voice of James Earl Jones.
I am your father. Didn't sound like him, did it not?
No, that was bad.
What do you mean? Wait, Luke.
Try that again.
Luke, I am your father.
I think that's a bit better, that.
Have to hit the back of my throat. I am your father. No, didn't sound like
Simba. Well, we're celebrating the life there with the voice of James Earl Jones because he's passed today. We're recording this as the great man, the great king of the monologue, let's say, has passed. It's funny that you mentioned straight away Darth Vader. Yeah. There's so many characters that I think he played that people are going to go, oh, no, he's the Field of Dreams guy. Yeah. Or he's the Lion King guy. Yeah. So, it's interesting, isn't it?
Absolute powerful voice.
He's a man that takes his voice very seriously.
I'd say so, yeah. Well, being blessed with vocal cords for him. It's like the bass, it's such a baritone bass voice when he's talking. It's like, how the fuck does he able to do that?
That's very whimsical, though, that poem, wasn't it?
It's very whimsical.
That was a birthday by Christina Rossetti.
Really?
Yeah, lovely poem. And you know what I was thinking about there actually today? There's a lot of people around the world today, not only listen to James Earl Jones, but have experienced their first deep, meaningful celebrity loss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there are people around the world who will be quite sad that he's gone. Obviously, do you remember what yours was? You're the first celebrity that died where you went, I've lost a friend, or that's someone that I felt very close to.
I remember 2016, I'm sure there was ones before that, but the first, Alan Rickman. When Alan Rickman died.
Alan Rickman.
We're obviously not going to get working
classic fool
in impersonations. Potter. Out of bed again, Potter.
So why was that then?
Because he's just a great actor. He's in so many good films. He's in Die Hard.
No, he's
the original villain in Die Hard before they made 72 more films. So and then obviously Harry Potter, growing up watching and reading Harry Potter and him being Severus Snape and him. But I think 2016 was Bowie died, Prince died, a lot of musicians and people have, I think that was the year that everyone was someone needs to hold on to David Attenborough for dear life for fear that he's next, but he's still going strong, baby. He's all right.
That's interesting. Mine would be Matthew Perry, I think.
Really?
Yeah, because I think when he was my mate, because we if you're in your mid-30s and you're watching Friends, or throughout your whole life it's been on telly. Yeah. And we've all gone over every episode at least twice in our lives. I have anyway. I've rewatched Friends at least 3 times.
It's one of those series that when you watch again, you go, "Oh, I've seen this. Oh, I've seen this." And you're like, "Oh, definitely. No, I definitely saw that." It was like watching Malcolm in the Middle again. You're like, "Oh, I've seen every single episode. Didn't realize, but it was always on."
Always on.
And Friends is still on now. So
and there's something bad about something quite emotional when you're someone's funny. And they've passed in the way that he did. There's a layer to that, isn't there? Where you rewatch that as an adult, going, "Oh, I wonder what was really going on there." Yeah. But he was the world's best funny mate. Everyone, when you were a kid at school, you'd pick which one you were. Yeah, I was always Chandler. Really, I was always Chandler. So that was probably mine.
Robin Williams as well. That was another one. because he has so many films that brought joy to people, and you'd watch, I'm a bit sick, I'll watch Mrs. Doubtfire, or I'll watch them, like all these different ones that he's in. And he just was brilliant, But also, James Earl Jones, just to circle back, have a flashback. Did you ever hear him? He was in The Treehouse of Horror. He read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe.
No.
Quote The Raven.
Nevermore.
And it's fucking
What's
amazing.
The Treehouse of Horror?
The Simpsons? They used to always do a Halloween episode.
Yeah.
And they did The Treehouse of Horror, where they'd always have like these kind of little skits where it's like a...
Well, the Raven episode of The Simpsons I think about all the time.
So Homer is like sitting, and he's the character in The Raven.
Yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe, I knock upon my chamber door, and Bart's the raven that comes in, and then Homer goes mad.
For sure.
Obviously, Lenore is Marge. But the person reading the poem is James Earl Jones.
I didn't know that.
Go back and watch it.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll do it now.
Very good it is.
Yeah. We've got a lot to cover today. Some lovely poetry. We've got a bit of horror as well. We're going to talk a bit about horror novels and scary poems, mentioning quote The Raven Nevermore. But I bumped into someone actually over the weekend who had told me that he got someone onto the podcast, got them to listen to it.
Yeah.
And I know, we've got a small community of friends. Let's call you friends. They are. Who
are pomies.
Yeah, who are telling their mates about the show and their mums about the show, but we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know you're doing it until we bump into you. So if you are doing that, if you are sending people the episodes and thinking that they'd like it, please let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to know.
We'd love to know, because we'd love to talk about it.
Be unreal.
Love to share it and share your name and call you out. It'd be great.
Yeah, and if you like poems, maybe you could send us a poem as well.
Always open.
Do you know what I mean?
Always
As I
open.
said, give us your fucking poems. We're always
if you're
looking
not sharing the show, something wrong with you.
for them. We don't want you to listen anyway.
Yeah, asked.
We'll just get our mate James Earl Jones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least he was our mate. He was talking about it all the time, I think.
Yeah, he loved it.
Do you know what I mean? Darth Vader wasn't, the person in the suit wasn't James Earl Jones.
Yeah, he was some English fella.
He was a bodybuilder, strongman and weightlifter.
Some unit.
David Prowse. Bristol.
Oh, he's from Bristol.
I
didn't know that. I thought he was from the north. So speaking of English, we talk about horror. You talk about The Raven, Edgar Allan Poe. I am getting a lot of joy at the moment by reading Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Fantastic book. Love it.
I am really enjoying it, and I think I've got a bit of a theory about it. I think there's a lot of joy in reading stories that you think you know, but you actually don't know the full story. I did the same with The Hunchback.
Oh, right.
Yeah, by Victor Hugo. Where you kind of think popular culture, you know the story, but you go into it and there are always little nuances that aren't the same. It's usually probably a little bit darker in the story. So it's kind of like going back to Friends. It's the equivalent of sitting down and rewatching an episode of Friends and having that comfort of right, I'm going to pick up Frankenstein because I know what is going on. There's no risk of experiencing this story, but that makes the differences hit even harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you get an insight into the characters, like the confessions from Dr. Frankenstein about how he got into that state of wanting to distribute evil to the world and get into chemistry. It was just, I'm really fucking enjoying it.
He was an arsehole. And people think you're like, oh, poor Dr. Frankenstein created life by him, as if he blundered into it. He kind of made this, and then the monster went on a rampage. No, he was an arsehole.
Yeah.
And in the book, you're not rooting for him, you're rooting for the monster. You're like,
no,
that poor monster.
He's not very sound to his family either. They get the letters between him and I think it's his sister.
But that whole kind of era of books, they loved as if it was a collection of letters.
Dracula's the same thing.
Dracula's the same. Yeah, Bram Stoker. I read that only recently. Last year, I think it was, read it for the first time. Brilliant book. But I think it was because a lot of them books, or those books, Frankenstein, was originally released as a periodical, so it was every month. And I think Mary Shelley did it anonymously as well, because with women back in the day and stuff like that, the good old misogyny, they were
wouldn't listen to her.
They wouldn't take her seriously, which is and obviously it's one of the best it's one of the best pieces of fiction out there
ever. Is it 1818? Is it published? Was it
1818 was the original, and we were chatting about it before, and I said that she released another. So she released the 1818 version, Well, initially how she did it was she was in a friend's house and they had a bet who could write the best horror story, and she was only like 21, and she just pulled out the first draft of Frankenstein out of her head, which is incredible.
Fuck.
It wasn't like years or months of work. I mean, obviously the novel took a while. She was writing it periodically.
You almost think that she must have done like a degree in chemistry as well. For the reference points of the way she speaks on science is like pretty
And
intense.
it was before women could go and study in universities and stuff like that, for medicine and stuff like that. But just the level of, as you said, the detail of intricacies and stuff like that. And then I think she released another edited version of it about 20, 30 years later, and like she'd cut out a good bit of it because it was considered like distasteful. And then another fun fact, a couple of years later, they released Frankenstein the play, and she got no money for it because copyright wasn't a thing. They're just like, we'll just we'll
take that once
we'll
out.
take your literary genius there, and I'm gonna make a play, and you're not getting any fucking money.
Fuck's sake!
Isn't it mad?
Fuming if you were her.
Absolutely.
What is it? We were talking about Emily Dickinson the other week, well, a few episodes ago, about like she was someone who got no notoriety in her working life. Obviously, Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, Byron. We'll talk about Byron later on. But it seems like the creatives in general, they don't get enough whack out of it as they probably should.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it's such a good piece of fiction.
Oh man, I'm really enjoying it. And I knew Mary Shelley also wrote poetry. So I wanted to find a poem that she'd written, and I had found one, and I would love to share it with you, pal.
Please do.
So I found this poem. I'll share it with you, all right? This is a poem from Mary Shelley, and it's called "Oh Listen While I Sing to Thee." My song is meant for thee alone. My thought imparts its melody and gives the soft, impassioned tone. I sing of joy and see thy smile, that to the swelling note replies. I sing of love and feel the while the gaze of thy love-beaming eyes. If thou wert far, my voice would die in murmurs faint and sorrowing. If thou wert fake in agony, my heart would break, I could not sing. Then listen while I sing to thee. My song is meant for thee alone. And now that thou art near to me, I pour a full, impassioned tone.
That was "Oh Listen While I Sing to Thee" by Mary Shelley.
Oh, listen while I sing to thee. That was gorgeous, wasn't it? That?
It's unreal.
Really, really
So
lovely.
nice.
From the Complete Poems by Mary Shelley,
Yeah.
published in 2017 by Delphi Classics. Really enjoyed that, now I have to say.
Because she was in like a little kind of literary supergroup. Because you had, obviously, Mary Wollstonecraft was her maiden name. Her father, I think both her parents were writers. And then her husband, Percy Shelley,
Yes.
poetry and written as well. And then they were mates with the old Lord Byron.
He's got a few mentions before on this show.
Mad, bad and dangerous to know.
Dangerous to know.
I was going through a little fun factory about our Lord Byron there to see like any kind of things, and he's a lot worse than I thought.
I knew he was bad. If you think Russell Brand's bad, go and look at Lord Byron's sexual history.
It's just like the first part of the thing I was reading, right, just to get a bit of digging, and it said that he had a pet bear and a penchant for drinking from human skulls.
Fuck me.
Like he became a lord when he was 10 years old.
Well, that'll
So you
do
think
something
about-
to you.
It's like Saltburn, but like original OG Saltburn.
OG Saltburn.
Yeah, so he was like mental, doing all these different things. And when you read about like Byron, he's kind of like the portrait of Dorian Gray, or the picture of Dorian Gray. That's what he's kind of reminds you of. He's like this man who's just like loves sinning, loves doing horrible things, and is up in that kind of upper gentry that he's able to get away with, I suppose. But
Yeah.
he actually had he had a club foot, so he wasn't the best at walking, but he was a very strong swimmer.
He had a clubbed foot.
He had a clubbed foot.
Still riding away.
Riding away, he said
Didn't matter.
he didn't give a fuck.
Gee,
He had loads of money.
Lassies had lower standards back then.
Well, he was part of the gentry, but like he was a really strong, accomplished swimmer as well.
Yeah.
And he was just, but again, mad, bad, and dangerous to know. I'm just like into all mad shit. But we were having a little conversation before this, and I was telling you I was on another stag.
Yeah.
I was on another stag.
Were, yeah.
I was in the cultural capital
Love
of
a
the
stag
world.
do.
I was in Benidorm.
I'm not sure if Byron ever ventured
I think
on his many travels.
I think he invented Benidorm, because that's what it felt like. It's just kebab shops.
Called the sin of Spain.
Oh God, it was just. So there's a poem that I was reading, going through my little Bible here of poems, and I found one that I feel I can relate to.
What? Okay.
I feel I can relate to.
Yeah.
It's not about drinking skulls or incest or anything like that, but it's called "So We'll Go No More a Roving" by Lord Byron.
Okay.
So we'll go no more a roving, so late into the night. Though the heart be still as loving, and the moon be still as bright. For the sword it wears its sheath, and the soul wears out the breast. And the heart must pause to breathe, and love itself have rest. Though the night was made for loving, and the day returns too soon, yet we'll go no more a roving by the light of the moon.
That was So We'll Go No More a Roving by Lord Byron.
George Gordon, aka Lord Byron.
Putting a full stop to his antics until he does it all again.
The next day.
The next day.
Or possibly an hour
as soon as he
later.
finishes writing that thing.
He went out to rove some more.
yeah, exactly.
Like, it just gets worse. Like, I was even saying, like, so Percy Shelley and Mary Shelley obviously married. Percy Shelley unfortunately drowned in 1822. And a correction as well, Mary Shelley was 18 years of age when she came up with the idea for Frankenstein. When Percy Shelley drowned in 1822, Byron apparently asked to keep his friend's skull.
Fucking freak, man.
And he was the inspiration for the first vampire novel, since we're talking about Bram Stoker as well.
I think he was like sick, like sucking, like drinking blood and stuff.
He was like the original goth.
Fuck me, man.
Before cyber goths were invented.
Because I knew he was shagging a lot. Everyone. It's like a no-fly zone. Like anyone that entered it went down. Basically, with Lord Byron.
Like the fucking Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, you just get lost.
You just get sucked in. Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, nasty, man. But what you were saying about them three being a bit of a pocket of culture, like a scene, I do think that most brilliant creativity comes out of a scene.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a story about when Prince was asked, like, his inspiration and what happened when he got his first break. And he was like, it could have been me or any of 10 people who were all gigging around the same time and then having after parties. So, like, it all creativity in definitely music, but certainly, like, art as well in general, comes from a scene of some sort.
What's like you have... C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were best friends. They used to send each other their work.
Did they?
They set up a writing group in like Oxford, I think it was, and they used to share each other, like, their work to each other. And obviously one wrote Narnia and one wrote Lord of the Rings.
They were high as fuck then. They must have been. They must have been high.
Doing mescaline or something. I don't know.
Think about it sometimes is like, I read an article the other day from it was George R. Martin talking about his frustrations around the second season of Game of Thrones, because apparently, like, he has a relationship with the producers, but they're not. They disagree. They agree. Obviously, as you would, but they always consult him. Could you imagine, like, that being Lord of the Rings and Tolkien being in the rooms? Like, imagine, like, because they removed so much from Lord of the Rings stories, whole characters and whole, like, narratives were completely ripped from the original story. So I wonder, like, how, if those films or those shows would have ever been the same if the writers were in the room. Probably not.
Well, I think with the Silmarillion they're not making it.
Have you tried to read the Silmarillion?
I have. I read it.
Joking?
It was tough. It's like reading a history book.
It's like reading a thesaurus.
Yeah.
It's an awful read. I don't know how I found it. It's in Wolverhampton now, and it's like you said. It's like it's almost like scientific notes of all the people that are in the world, that world.
That's what he goes full nerd, I think, and he's like adding context to everything, and how, like, You know, it's interesting to see like where like Gandalf was one of the Maya and was like these kind of like ethereal beings that came down.
It's kind of interesting.
He's like a demigod, and then like, I think halfway through the book it kind of turns into a bit of a narrative. There's like a bit of it because it was a collection of all different works that he had, all notes that he had over the years, and Christopher Tolkien gave it to like a publisher and was like, we're going to make a collection of all this kind of stuff. So it's a lot of disjointed work from like many years of him kind of writing down facts about, okay, what would they do there? What were they doing? Yeah, who would you go to pub with?
Yeah.
And then they made the Silmarillion from it, but I think the family don't want it to be made into a film or whatever. But like Lord of the Rings, like the 3 books, like you can't put everything into the film. The films are 3.5 hours long already. Like it's like
big whopper.
You have to take some parts out. Who are we covering next now?
Well, I was going to talk about. So I was on one Friday a while back. It was maybe a couple of weeks ago. I had one of them Fridays where I had my whole night was open in a bad way.
Right.
You know what I mean? You just like you finish work at 5, and you go, oh no, I've got nothing to do, and it feels anxious because you feel like the weekend's screaming at you to do something. So one of the things I lean on as a crutch when that happens is I go musing in Hodges Figgis. So basically, I don't live too far from that bookshop, so I got out the gaff. I was like, right, go for a walk before, so did a little circle of Merrion Square, and then bombed onto Grafton Street, took a left, just short of Grafton Street, and went to Dawson Street and went to the bookshop. And in that bookshop, if you go up the stairs, and like the front is quite fancy, big bloody, big units of books, and it's but in the back, it's a bit kind of older. It goes like a bit of a throwback library sort of vibe. Well, that's where the poetry collection is. And I was kind of going through that just because it was making me feel good. Like I'm here and, but peel through what's available. And I found the collection Cargo by a writer called Polina Cosgrave.
Oh, wow.
And Polina, I've been following Polina on Instagram since lockdown.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe when she started writing poetry. So when I saw the name, sometimes you see the name. It was actually next to Phil Lynch's collection that we covered previously.
The great Phil Lynch.
Yeah. So I picked it up. I was like, right, don't overthink it. Don't read it like Cadna Bonham Carter does and be a little cheapo. Pay the 12 quid and buy that fucking book and take it home. Yeah. So I bought it, took it home, and it was like 100-page long. Read it in one sitting. Felt so good about myself because that's like, you've gone excavating. Yeah. You've gone on a bit of an adventure. You've found something, and now you're reading, which always makes me feel like amazing. A
cultural jaunt.
Exactly. So a Friday night of what I thought may be me just lying on the couch staring into the abyss ended up being quite a lovely evening.
You were educating yourself.
I was educating myself, and I wanted to share one of the poems from that particular collection. I shared it on the Instagram of the Poster Podcast page a while back and got a lot of lovely responses. Yeah. And I think it kind of, like we say sometimes, poems that we read, it collects a ton of different ideas that we weren't really privy to before, we hadn't thought about. And this is kind of one of them. And the poem is entitled, Don't Make Love to Them If They Don't Dance. Jesus Christ, isn't that a fucking great title for a
banger
poem?
Of a title?
It just gives you everything.
Oh, man.
I mean, how good could it possibly be? Now it's called that. So I'll read it to you and we'll find out. So this is Polina Cosgrave with Don't Make Love to Them If They Don't Dance. Don't make love to them if they don't dance, if they don't drink, if they do not treat their first breath after waking up as a marvel. If their feet can resist moving to the devil's music, if red wine doesn't fill their belly with laughter, do not take them in your bed. It'd be colder with them in it. Don't make friends with them if they don't cry, if they don't read, if they can't listen to a stranger as if their life depends on it. Chances are they stay deaf to their own children. If their mind can resist inhabiting worlds full of magic, if others' pain doesn't fill their eyes with sorrow, do not take them in your heart. It'll be emptier with them in it. Make peace with them. Make for the exit. Make something of yourself. Make sure the sparks are flying high from underneath your heels. when you're dancing like crazy to the devil's music.
That was Do Not Make Love to Them If They Don't Dance by Polina Cosgrave.
Cosgrave, yeah.
That's a fucking banger.
Whoa,
Oh
my god. It takes you back to those days where, you know, you're with a tyrannical partner or someone that you just don't think you should be with.
That's one of my favourite poems you've read out on this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, it just blows you away.
Yeah.
I'm so glad she's happy enough to share it on the show. And the collection's great. It's called Cargo.
I'm gonna get a copy of Cargo, I think, because that poem's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. You
know when you read a poem or you listen to a poem and you just like, it just changes how you perceive the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that poem does.
Yep.
Because you're like, I'm going to enjoy myself for the rest of the day at least.
Yeah. I read that poem and I folded it. I put the book away for a bit. I was like, well, more people need to know about that. So that's getting shared, obviously. And then I just kind of had a candle in the gaff. I just kind of walked around the gaff going, fuck, yeah, bloody hell.
Makes you think, like, it's just like...
Makes you think how you show up in the world as well. And go like, well, am I?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I am. But hopefully we all do our best to bring a bit of joy to the fucking world.
Better dance a bit more.
I do love a dance.
I fucking love a boogie as well.
Probably what we were talking actually in the pub earlier before we recorded the show about, like, when you get a bit older, the opportunities to dance do become quite limited.
But when
the
you
nights out and stuff. But when you do,
when you have them,
and
it takes you less alcohol to dance when you get older. You don't need to have a load of it to get on that dance floor.
How do you feel about, like, the movement that seems to be quite positive around, like, daytime clubs for the over 35s? Like, you know, there's a club in Dublin now where it's like a nightclub for people like me and you who apparently passed it.
Who don't want to go.
Who want to go at the night, yeah, and can, like, experience the club in the daytime.
I need to go to one of these clubs.
Yeah, do you?
Like, I don't know. Like, COVID ruined going out late for me. Like, I used to love being out at 4 o'clock in the morning, and now it gives me the fear. I'm like, at past 12, I'm like, do I really need to go? Do I really need to go to this?
Well, it starts after 12, like.
And it starts after 12. Like, or not, even 11. I'm like, if I'm in the pub beforehand and it kind of creeps into like half 12, 1 o'clock, that's grand. But I'd never go out at 11 o'clock. But I used to, like, you know, when you're like 20, 21.
You'd be pre-drinking in the gaff before and you'd be happy to go. Yeah,
you'd be out till fucking whatever time. But
and then now you like, it's like you want it but you don't want it, because I've been out like with friends and you're like, oh, I can't wait to go clubbing, and then you all of a sudden you're just like doing a circle of the nightclub and you're like farting your way through it and you don't find you're just like, get me home. You're going, why would I be here? So it's like, I don't know, I know what the perfect night out is anymore for.
There's, you know, like, obviously however many nights you go out in your life, but there was, remember one, and I was only about, must have been only about 22, 23, but I was with a lot of people from work. I used to work in Captain America's on Grafton Street. So I was only far. I ended up in a place, Zico's, you know, the Mexican place underneath.
It's not open anymore. I think it's shut.
I think it's shut now, yeah. But it was around the time, and I can tell you, it was around the time Bruno Mars released Uptown Funk, right? Okay. That song,
it'll get you.
And I was there. I just remember that moment, and it was like 1 a.m, 2 a.m, and we're in Zico's, and that comes on, and like, the sweat is dripping off you. You're dancing that much. It's that intense. And everyone around you is just having the best time ever. And then I was like, I've always loved that song, right? And like, I know obviously after a while it was getting played too much. You know, every song in the mainstream culture. But when you listen to it many years after, you're like, oh, it still gets you. But I remember hearing a thing about Mark Ronson. And he was like, when he'd made, obviously, Uptown Funk, he said, after he finished, he went outside and he vomited. And he goes, that's how I knew it was perfect.
Oh,
because he spent so long working on that one song. He was like, that's what I knew was perfect. It was like just a release. His body was just like all the stress was gone. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just an absolute belter of a tune. Like,
when I think about nights out, I always think about uni.
Yeah.
At the student union on a Wednesday, where the night was called Gobble. and at the time, I really backed myself big time. Right.
Were you a gobbler?
It was Stoke-on-Trent, my university was, and we used to pre-drink in one of the lads' gaffs, and then we went out. And at the time, I was, I kind of thought I was a bit like I'm thinking of the bands around that time, like the Vaccines and the Kooks and stuff, and I think I was dressed a bit like that. I had like a haircut, which is a bit like Liam Gallagher and all that. But I used to wear exclusively kind of waistcoats over t-shirts. That was my look.
Really?
I used to wear like a white t-shirt and like a grey waistcoat, thinking I was like Neo. I just think of
like the Wolverhampton version of Neo.
Yeah, Closer is the song that I think of when I think of really good nights out. Come close, and I just can't pull myself away.
You make me want to dance. You make me want to dance.
Let us know what your songs are when you think about nights out, because that's mine.
It triggers memories as well, like, you know, like
great memories.
Songs are. It's like even, you know, the whole Oasis craze at the moment, like, and going back to their whole catalogue, and you're like, I've obviously been raised on Oasis, but it's like you're going back to listen to songs you might not have listened to for 15 years, and you're like, you still know all the words.
You're going to it. I didn't get to it.
I'm going, baby. Yeah. Got very lucky.
It's like fear.
Yeah. I know you're not raging.
No, I know. I'm more raging that you've got Fontaine's DC tickets in Dublin and I haven't. I'm probably more upset about that.
Active calendar now, you know, in terms of gigs.
Busy lad.
I'm trying my best.
Wanted to wrap up the show with a poem that was sent to us from one of our listeners. And again, like, you know, we appreciate everyone's support, and whenever you share on Instagram on the poems that we have, or likes on TikTok, like, we see everything. But it comes with even more power and strength when you have a poem to send us. So wanted to share this one with you. This is from Nicola Clare.
It's a wonderful poem. Psychiatry gave me PTSD.
Where's this going to go?
Well, I'll let you know. I'm going to read it.
Good.
I'm going to read it now. Psychiatry gave me PTSD by Nicola Clare. Psychiatry gave me PTSD, a silhouette now, or a hologram, wedged between sheets of soundproof, somehow shatterproof glass, stuck for an eternity cast. A mad, ranting lunatic, labels glued so firmly that any passage of time is insufficient to reverse the grim reality of, she suffers with her nerves, has reduced capacity, functionality. What? She's dead. Yeah. The mental health show. The increased mortality. Psychiatry gave me PTSD, a body adorned in scars, designed within its grasp, no art without red, no gain without dread, and the painful hypnotic decline into the clutches of anxiety, depression, bipolar, borderline. Any former shrine scratched as I stumbled all, time losing meaning, the line between fine and not fine, erased beneath the medicated shuffle. Cries to be heard in an inaudible muffle as I'm handed a couple more pills. Psychiatry gave me PTSD, a battle of wills that killed any discourse or dialogue, power imbalance, tilted to monologue, orders and instructions from the sane to the insane, the ordered to the post-traumatic stress disordered, or a response to being engulfed in madness, dressed for weeks in pyjamas, repeatedly knocked down by badness and sadness, time for a fresh canvas. Can you listen? Can you see? My emotions and responses aren't pathology.
That was Nicola Clare with Psychiatry Gave Me PTSD.
I was judging the first month of the Fingal Poetry Festival Slam Balbriggan Library, and Nicola was competing, and she placed as a finalist. So
brilliant.
She's now competing in the Fingal Poetry Festival, that as a recording will be on this weekend, so this will be out obviously after the Fingal Poetry Festival. But we wish you all the best, Nicola. Hopefully you smash the granny out of it. That's it, yeah. So thanks for sending in that lovely poem.
It's funny, like the poem that you just read out. There's not just a stigma around PTSD, but like what she says about like, oh, what happened to her, you know, the mental health and all. Oh yeah, grand. Like, not just we don't talk about these things enough. There's words and sentences that are that kind of take the pressure out of the actual experience of having like awful PTSD and things that are going on that no one else understands.
Yeah, and there's still a stigma as well around mental illness, and mental health is like, oh yeah, look after your mental health, but if you have mental illness or your mental health is suffering, there is a line, which is still
there is a line.
And you're like, everybody suffers with their mental health at some point in their life, I imagine, and if some people don't, and I don't know, maybe, well, fair play them.
Yeah,
but like but like mental health is a real thing, and it's good to have a dialogue around it.
Yeah,
and that poem certainly shares it and shows that you shouldn't be put in a box just because if you had a broken leg, people wouldn't be like, oh look, there's your man with a broken leg, like,
oh god,
no, he comes hobbling again, like, no, but like
you wouldn't know.
No, so like if someone has like something wrong with, or they're trying to deal with something, fair play to them for looking for help,
Yeah, and fair play to Nicola to write it, because obviously she's got a level of insight that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah,
a little bit like when Jessie Flood did the poem about her working life.
The revolving door. So I think people that live in these worlds where they get a lot of exposure to irregularities of things that we don't see, it's important to turn that into art, because that gives us a bit of a window, doesn't it? Well, it gives you an extra perspective that you never would have had before. You know?
And we need that.
We do, and it's important, and it's a very brave poem to share as well, but something so honest and something so
thanks for sharing it.
Really appreciate that she sent it in.
Listen, we see things when you send it in.
And we do,
So listen, like, if you are thinking about writing something, or if you think that your world is quite a unique one and you have a specific perspective that we should get an insight into, then try and turn it into a fucking poem.
Everybody has a story to tell,
don't they?
So give us your fucking poems.
Give us your poems.
Give us your fucking poems.
And don't use ChatGPT.
Because we know.
Yeah, because we know.
Because we'll use ChatGPT to find out.
You know what happened to me today?
What happened to you?
I was having lunch at 3FE over the road, right?
Yeah.
Go in, a bit of commotion in the coffee shop. I was like, what's going on? All of a sudden, looked up. The Jonas Brothers are having lunch in the cafe, right? I was like, okay, cool. So sit down in a table just next to them. It's like an entourage and security there. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, I'm not really a photo taker. You know what? I listened to an interview with Roy Keane talking about whether or not he'd take a photo with anybody, and he said no. And then since then, whenever I come close to fanboying someone famous, I'm like, Roy Keane's watching me, thinking I've got nothing about me here, so I can't. So, but the missus was there. She loves Jonas Brothers. She went over, chatted to him. I got a photo, took a photo with them, and then I saw Nick Jonas in a Les Mis a while ago. He was like, in the anniversary stuff, they do performances. I just said to him, like, do you think you'll do Les Mis again? And he was like, no, I don't think so, man. I got another show. And I was like, I thought you were great in it. Thinking I'm cool. Like, no photo, pal, but I just want to let you know. So anyway, we go from ChatGPT. As we were having lunch, they were talking about ChatGPT with poetry. I think it was Joe Jonas who was like, we love Dublin so much, let's write a poem.
Using ChatGPT?
Yeah.
That's where all their fucking songs came from.
I'm not saying anything, pal. But that's what they said. They're like, no, use ChatGPT, man. It'd be cool. And here's me going,
you're a fucking songwriter.
I'm here, you're there, I'm listening. That's mad.
Found out.
But everyone's writing poems in ChatGPT.
I ask ChatGPT, I've gone on a rabbit hole now. I ask it mad questions. Just like, do you ever, when you're just like late at night, you're like, I wonder if I'm going to ask ChatGPT that. I was like what? I was like, is Vietnam still a communist country? And it's like, yes, it is. And I was like, all right. Which do you think is better, communism
it's like
or capitalism?
You have Stephen Fry sitting next to you in your bed.
Basically, it's like
you got an encyclopedia of knowledge.
And then it turns out social democracy is what it's like. If you go over social democracy, it's kind of it's pretty popular in the Scandinavian countries. And like I've only found this out by talking.
No wonder you not get any sleep.
I don't know. Just one good thing actually. I did see a celebrity as well on my travels
in Benidorm.
Not Benidorm, but going to Alicante. So I don't think this person was going to Benidorm. I think they were enjoying a nice, relaxing holiday somewhere in Alicante. But I was on the flight and Kelly Harrington walked past me.
Ah, yeah.
And I was like, is that... when you see someone...
She deserves a break.
And you're like, is that Kelly Harrington? And then all of a sudden the plane started clapping and I was like,
It's Kelly Harrington.
Yeah. National hero over there, you know. So I was just, and my mum was like, get a photo with her. I dare you. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not that.
You did.
I'm just not that kind of person. I can't do it. Like, you know.
No, I can't do it either.
And sure, about 400 people were trying to, like, you know, itching to ask, and I could see people just kept looking over, like, you know, like, that's this guy in the yard. I was like, no, just let her like, be alone. Like,
just let her have it.
She's after winning a second gold medal. Just let her have a good holiday.
Yeah.
So
leave her alone.
I hope she enjoyed herself. She probably had a better time than I did in Benidorm.
Yeah. We'll wrap up the show. You can tell me more about that.
Oh, I don't think I can. I don't think I can.
As always, listen, we love hearing from you. Do share the show if you think that someone you love would like it, or if you think that if someone that you don't like would hate it, send it them.
Yeah.
But just do it.
Just give us
bully people.
Bully them into liking the show.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you could do.
We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. The email address, thepoetryspodcast@gmail.com. Send your poems in.
We have a Patreon as well.
I'm sorry, we've got a community of Patreon subscribers. We love them all. We're thinking of doing something soon. A book club is on the cards. So if you'd like to get involved and sign up to that, do so. All the links are in the link tree that are on the Instagram.
£3.
3 beans.
Not a bother.
Yeah. You can tell your friends, oh yeah, contributes to this poetry project.
It's like almost as cheap as a pint of Benidorm, but doesn't leave a horrible taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's the opposite of poetry. Benidorm is the opposite of poetry.
Oh man, it's
depreciate returns.
One of the lads said very accurately, it's like being in an open air prison.
Yeah.
And we're gonna leave it at
that. Leon, thanks for your time.
Always a pleasure, never a chore, my baby.
See you later.